Boo. Right, I know it's Criminology Friday, but I fancied some movie talk. But let's tie it in with Criminology Friday. And what hits me? Manhunter hits me. That's like the first movie to show Hannibal Lecter. And 1986, I believe. And that, right, I think I've talked about this. I don't know, I probably have. I'm sorry if I have. But I watched that when I was so young. I think my dad had fell asleep. And it was dark. The room was dark. And I remember the scenes, the kind of serial killer aftermath scene. With the mirrors in the victim's eyes. And that was so profound. I didn't really understand the movie, but I remember that, and it hit me so hard. It was only as a few years later, as I was kind of young adult, I watched Manhunter, and I do love that movie, and I love the 80s vibe of it as well, and I love the kind of criminology aspect of it. But saying that, I love Silence of the Lambs, I love Hannibal. I think Hannibal 2000, I went to the cinema to see that. I think that's quite underrated, and I've read the novel as well. I remember reading that novel on the train coming back from London once, and I felt kind of important that I was reading a book. I know it's ridiculous, but I was quite young. So Manhunter is a good one. Seven, it's hard to say, but as a serial killer film, I think Seven is up there. It is. It's probably the best, I think, because it's kind of Hollywood, it's stylish, but it's David Fincher. So you've got David Fincher's brain kind of coming at you, you know. Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, Kevin Spacey, Gwyneth Paltrow, but everything of that film and the vibe and the atmosphere and the cinematography, everything about that film kind of comes together. So that's a 5-star classic. Crime films, you got to say, well, I've mentioned kind of horror, a thriller, psychological kind of serial killer films, but Heat, 1995, Michael Mann, that is a classic, and that blew me away when I was a kid. What was I? So I was about 14 when I first saw that, and I could just tell it was just excellent filmmaking. The script for that is amazing. That must have took a lot of work, I don't know, but fun enough, just thinking of that, apparently the script for Taxi Driver, the guy, and I've forgotten his name, I was going to say Paul Schrader, I don't want that to be wrong, I'll look that up, but he wrote the script to Taxi Driver in like 10 days in his car because he had no money. You know, there's quite a famous story about that. But anyway, going back to Heat, yeah, the duality of Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and also as someone who likes actors and movies in general, to see them kind of come together on screen for the first time, because they were both in Godfather Part 2, but they didn't share the screen. And a lot of this is from kind of movie magazines and documentaries that I've read and picked up from in the past. So if I'm wrong about anything, I apologise. But yeah, the duality of that, and the cops and the robbers, you know, old school. Since I was a kid, I remember a series of books, colourful kind of children's books about cops and robbers, and I loved it. But anyway, who would you rather be in Heat? And if you haven't seen Heat, check it out. Would you rather be Al Pacino or Robert De Niro? Al Pacino's police officer, or Robert De Niro's kind of almost like uber cool kind of loner thief? Obviously he's got his gang, he's got his crew, but Al Pacino's the man in that movie, you know. Heat. So I've mentioned Manhunter, Seven, Heat, a little bit of Taxi Driver. That's a brilliant film. I mean, there's so many, but they all hit me, and they hit me hard. Those films. Sometimes when I was a kid, when I was getting into cinema, sometimes I'd be laying on my bed, whatever, reading a book or playing the Super Nintendo or whatever, and my dad would come in and just chuck me a couple of classics on VHS, like a triple box set of like Taxi Driver, Bullet, and Serpico, Police Corruption, American Gangster. That hits me as well. That's a pretty cool film. But yeah, so movie talk. But I'm tying it in because today is Criminology Friday. I like to focus in on criminology on a Friday for some reason. I don't know why, but I like it. So yeah, so there's a few classics there, and if you haven't seen them, I recommend them. Check them out. Right, I can smell dinner. I think I need some vape. See you later.